The opening scene of the movie shows a young boy sneakily trying to take a look at a sword. The owner of the sword was Aurelius, general of the Nova Invicta Legion. Aurelius caught the young boy and ordered one of his men, Batiatus, to cut off the boy's arm as a punishment for trying to steal. But the young boy begged for them not to cut his arm off, reasoning that he just wanted to look at the commander's sword, and Aurelius let him go. Unbeknownst to the commander, the young boy was actually Romulus Augustus, soon to be emperor of the Roman Empire. Commander Aurelius learned of this during the coronation, when he witnessed the young boy getting placed on the imperial throne by his father, Orestes. Aurelius formally met Romulus when Orestes introduced them to each other, as Aurelius would be the one to command the young emperor's personal guard. After meeting the new emperor, Aurelius was tasked with guiding the philosopher Ambrosinus out of Rome. Ambrosinus served as Romulus's teacher, but after the coronation, he was relieved of his duties by Orestes and was told to leave immediately. Before Ambrosinus left, Aurelius asked the older man where he got the mark on his chest. Ambrosinus gave a vague answer, only stating that it came from a man who loved power, and left with a warning for Aurelius. Later that night, Romulus was finally resting after a long day when he woke up to a war happening outside his home. The Goths, who were supposed to be allies, had betrayed them. The Gothic warlord, Odoacer, had asked for Orestes to give him a third of Italy, but Orestes refused his demands, and now the Goths had ambushed Rome. It was there that young Romulus witnessed the death of his parents. When the war was over, most of the soldiers of the Nova Invicta Legion had already fallen, some had been captured, and only Aurelius was seen remaining. Romulus, on the other hand, had been captured by Odoacer's lieutenant, Wulfila. Wulfila brought Romulus to Odoacer and attempted to convince the Gothic warlord to kill Romulus, as he had the blood of the Caesars. But then Ambrosinus showed up and urged Odoacer to spare the young emperor, telling the Gothic warlord that killing Romulus would bring him nothing but bad luck. Odoacer believed what Ambrosinus had said and decided to just exile Romulus, along with Ambrosinus, to the island fortress at Capri, with Wulfila serving as the young emperor's prison guard. Meanwhile, Aurelius was approached by the emissary of Constantinople, who informed him about Romulus being exiled to Capri. The very next day, Aurelius, together with a guard sent by one of the ambassadors, set out on a mission to save his allies and Romulus. Reaching the group of Goths that were holding his allies captive, Aurelius ordered the guard with him to pretend to be a prisoner and lure the Gothic guards away. Once the Gothic guards had run after the masked guard, Aurelius killed the remaining guards and freed his surviving soldiers, Vetranus, Batiatus, and Demetrius. They then followed where the masked guard and the Goths had run off and saw that the masked guard had already beaten all of the Goths. Later on, the soldiers were resting while Aurelius went to look for the masked guard and discovered that the latter was actually a woman named Mira. Aurelius and Mira regrouped with the others, and everyone watched in shock as she used her womanly charms to lure a fisherman before punching him straight into the water. Mira and the soldiers stole the fisherman's boat and traveled to Capri. Meanwhile, both Romulus and Ambrosinus were already held captive in the island fortress at Capri. Wulfila taunted Romulus by offering him a drink mixed with his spit, but the young emperor just smacked the bowl away, angering Wulfila. But before Wulfila could harm Romulus, Ambrosinus reminded him of what Odoacer would do to him if he disobeyed his orders to not cause any kind of harm to Romulus. Wulfila vented his anger at Ambrosinus by tying him up. Seeing the pentangle mark on his chest, Wulfila asked Ambrosinus what it meant, and just like before, Ambrosinus gave a vague answer by saying that he's a seeker of truth. Wulfila ordered his men to put Ambrosinus up before leaving. Being tied up so high, Ambrosinus could see the place much more clearly, and when he saw the pentangle, That's when he remembered the sword that Tiberius presumably brought into that island fortress. He then told Romulus to look for his ancestor, Julius Caesar, as the latter had something he was guarding for Romulus. Romulus did as he was told and searched the area. When he saw a portrait of Julius Caesar, he clicked on both eyes, and the ground beneath him suddenly gave way, causing him to fall into a hidden chamber below. Inside the hidden chamber, he found a lone statue of Julius Caesar, holding a sword forged in Britain, to fit the hand of the man who was destined to rule. Romulus took the sword from the hands of his ancestor's statue and read the words carved on it. Mira and the soldiers of the Nova Invicta Legion had reached the island. While the others were ordered to stay on the boat, Aurelius and Mira sneaked onto the island with the help of Ambrosianus, who had managed to escape from where he was tied up. Aurelius went searching for Romulus inside the temple, while Mira stayed behind to fight against the guards outside. Romulus, on the other hand, had sneaked into Wulfila's room and attempted to kill him with the sword, but failed. Wulfila had woken up, and the young emperor ran away, knowing that he couldn't fight a grown warrior. But as he was hiding, he was caught by a Gothic guard. Fortunately, Aurelius had appeared to save the young emperor. Aurelius fought against Wulfila and was able to put a scar on the Gothic lieutenant's face before he ran away with Romulus. They regrouped with Ambrosianus, Mira, and Aurelius' soldiers and blocked the large double doors to stop the Gothic warriors from coming in. Aurelius commanded Mira and his soldiers to get Romulus and Ambrosianus to safety, but a reluctant Mira refused to leave him behind. So while the others escaped to the boat, the two of them lured Goths outside the temple before jumping into the water, once they were sure that Romulus and the others were already on the boat. Romulus and the others were already on the boat. They escaped from the island and went to the seaport, where they met up with Nestor, the senator of Rome, and the emissary of the Eastern Empire, whose emperor had promised Romulus a safe passage to Constantinople. But they later realized that they had been betrayed by Nestor and the Eastern Emperor, who sided with Odoacer, when the Eastern soldiers suddenly attacked them, killing Vetrinus, who sacrificed himself in order to protect the young emperor. After defeating all the Eastern soldiers, they grieved for their loss, and when Aurelius saw Nestor trying to escape, he cornered him and killed him. The emissary of Constantinople attempted to shoot Aurelius with an arrow, but was killed by Mira, who decided to break her sacred oath and side with Romulus. Aurelius convinced Romulus to go north and find the 9th Legion in Britain. The group traveled for days until they reached Britain, where they found a ruined home and dead residents. Ambrosianus stated that there was only one man who could do such a thing, and it was a man named Vortigern, a tyrannical warlord who is actually the same man who put the pentangle mark on Ambrosianus's chest. The group then traveled to Hadrian's Wall, where they expected to find the 9th Legion. But instead, all they found were ruins and no signs of the 9th Legion. Assuming that the 9th Legion has fallen, Aurelius was crestfallen, but then met a group of farmers who turned out to be the members of the 9th Legion. Custenin, the former general of the 9th Legion, revealed that after the end of Roman rule in Britain, the 9th Legion disbanded. Some left to fight in Gaul, and those with families settled in a village near Hadrian's Wall. However, they all live in fear because of Vortigern, who wants to rule the whole of Britain. The group stayed in the village for a while, and there Romulus became friends with a young girl named Igraine. But the morning when Igraine went to visit Romulus, she met Vortigern. The barbaric warlord killed the family of a blacksmith in front of Igraine and ordered the scared little girl to tell the other villagers to give Romulus to him unless they wanted everyone in the village to die. Igraine did as she was told, and in fear of getting annihilated by Vortigern, the villagers decided to make Romulus and his small army leave. Before they left, Romulus made a speech that touched the hearts of the villagers, and many of the former 9th Legion decided to fight with the young emperor. The day of the battle had arrived. The last legion of Rome faced Vortigern's army and Wulfila. Meanwhile, Ambracenus finally faced his old enemy. He and Vortigern fought against each other in the place where Vortigern marked Ambracenus. Unlike how he lost before, Ambracenus got the upper hand and finally defeated Vortigern. He went back to the battlefield and showed the barbaric warlord's army the mask of their leader, successfully driving them to retreat. But Wulfila's greed knows no bounds. He chased Romulus down and stole the Caesar's sword, which he used to fight against Aurelius. During the fierce duel, Wulfila lost grip on the sword, but still won against a severely injured Aurelius. Seeing that Wulfila was distracted by Aurelius, Romulus grabbed his sword and impaled Wulfila with it. The battle was finally over, and both Vortigern and Wulfila had fallen. The young emperor was horrified by the number of deaths the battle had caused and decided that there would be no more war and no more bloodshed. He threw the sword away, and it lodged into a large stone. Many years later, Ambracenus started going by his original name, Merlin. He took a young boy named Arthur to the battlefield, where he told him the whole story of Romulus. After the battle, Aurelius and Mira got married, and the two of them raised Romulus as their own son. Romulus grew to be such a wise ruler, and he took the Celtic name Pendragon, which meant son of a dragon. Romulus then marries his first ever friend, Igraine, and the result of their love is none other than Arthur. The ending scene then showed the now moss-covered Caesar's sword still lodged in the stone. The moss was covering the original Latin inscription embedded on the sword, and now you can only read the words Excalibur.